So AI, right? It's everywhere. It feels like it just appeared overnight and suddenly it's changing the world. But here's the crazy part. This overnight success is actually the result of a 60-year-long journey. And let me tell you, it's been a wild ride. In this explainer, we're going to dig into that long, often bumpy road to get here. Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How did we get here? I mean, it really does feel like we've fast-forwarded into some sci-fi movie, but the path to this moment, wow, it's an epic tale full of genius insights, game-changing breakthroughs, and, honestly, some absolutely soul-crushing failures along the way. And that's the most important thing to get about the history of AI. It wasn't some straight upward climb. No way. It was a total roller coaster. The best way to think about it is like seasons. You had these incredible sunny springs where anything seemed possible, followed by these long, brutal winters where the whole idea almost died. So let's take a trip through all those seasons, from the very beginning. All right, let's dive right in. We're going back to the start, to the very first spark of an idea, where this dream of a thinking machine finally got its name. So picture this. It's 1956. A bunch of brilliant minds get together and officially christens this new field artificial intelligence. Their big idea? It seemed almost simple. They thought, look, human thinking is based on logic, right? So if we can just map out all those logical rules, we can literally program a computer to think just like us. This whole approach was called symbolic reasoning. It was all about handing the machine a super detailed, step-by-step instruction manual for everything. And you know what? For a little while, it looked like they were totally going to pull it off. This was the first AI spring. They were building programs that could play a decent game of chess, solve complex math problems. The optimism was off the charts. Researchers were literally telling people that human-like AI was just around the corner. But there was a huge catch. These systems were incredibly brittle. The second you threw them a curveball, something they hadn't seen before, something ambiguous, they just fell apart. The real world is messy, and these rule-based systems just couldn't cope. And that leads us right here to 1974. This is the year the music stopped. It's the moment when all that incredible hype smashed headfirst into the wall of reality. And that optimism, it started to crack big time. And what followed was what we now call the very first AI winter. Think about it. The promises were huge, human-level intelligence in a decade. But the actual results? They were underwhelming. The tech just wasn't there yet. So what happens when you overpromise and underdeliver? Yep, the funding evaporated, the projects got shut down, and the entire field of AI basically went into hibernation. Okay, so after that long, cold winter, things started to slowly thaw out. A new idea started bubbling up, something much more practical. The goal shifted. Instead of trying to build a machine that could think like a human, the focus became building a machine that could be useful to a human. So the whole idea of a general thinking machine was put on the back burner. Instead, researchers zoomed way in. They thought, okay, what if we don't try to replicate a whole human mind? What if we just replicate the knowledge of one person who is an expert in one specific thing? And that's how we got expert systems. And throughout the 80s, man, these things were hot. You had systems like Mycin that could help doctors diagnose infectious diseases. It was huge. This was the first time AI looked like it could actually make money. But, and you can probably see where this is going, they were still built on that same old shaky foundation. They were just giant collections of if-then rules. They couldn't learn anything new, they were super expensive to create, and if you needed to update one, forget about it. It was basically the same old problem, just dressed up for business. So, what do you think happened? Exactly. As soon as the corporate world figured out these expert systems weren't some magical solution to all their problems, poof, the money disappeared. Again. And that kicked off the second AI winter, which, believe it or not, was even harsher than the first. So here's the deal. To finally break out of this boom and bust cycle, AI needed a total reboot, a fundamentally different way of thinking. It had to stop being about programmers writing rules and start being about machines learning from experience, just like we do. This next part of the story, it's not just another step, it's a complete revolution. And this table just lays it out perfectly. Look at the left side. That's the old rule-based way. Imagine trying to teach a kid to recognize a cat by writing down 1,000,000 rules about fur and whiskers and pointy ears. It's impossible. Now look at the right.
That's machine learning. You don't write rules. You just show the computer a million pictures of cats and say, figure it out. It learns the patterns on its own. That's the game changer. It's flexible, it can adapt, and it can handle the glorious messiness of the real world.
This is what ended the Winters. It was like a perfect storm of innovation. First, we get these powerful machine learning algorithms. Then we get deep learn, which uses these things called neural networks, kind of inspired by how our own brains are wired. But the two secret ingredients, the real rocket fuel, were one, the internet, which gave us unimaginable amounts of data to learn from, and two, powerful GPUs, graphics cards from the video game world that were perfect for this kind of math. With all that in place, AI suddenly started doing things that felt impossible just years before. Recognizing images, understanding speech, it was all happening. And all of that history, every winter and every thaw, brings us right to this moment, to the AI that you and I are using every single day. We've moved way past a thaw. This is the generative summer. And here's the huge leap. For most of its history, AI was really good at understanding stuff. You could show it a picture and it would say, that's a cat. That's analysis. But generative AI, it's about creation. It doesn't just recognize the cat, it can create a brand new, totally original picture of a cat that's never existed before. It's learned the idea of a cat so well that it can now generate its own. And I mean, you know the all-stars here, right? ChatGPT, DALL-E, Midjourney. These are the tools that took AI from a niche academic thing and put it in the hands of millions. And what's running under the hood? These incredibly powerful architectures called transformers, which are the direct evolution of everything we've just talked about with machine learning. This is exactly why today feels so different from those earlier moments of hype. Think about it. We're not just typing commands into a box anymore. We're talking to these things. We're collaborating with them to write, to create art, to code. It's a completely different relationship with our machines than we've ever had before. So let's just zoom out and look at the whole journey. There it is, clear as day. The first spring, full of hope. The first winter, when it all came crashing down. That little thaw with expert systems, followed by an even colder winter. And then finally, the great thaw of machine learning that led us right here to the generative summer we're living in now. And that brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? We've seen this pattern, we've seen the hype cycles, we've seen the winters. So is this time really different? After this incredibly long and difficult history, is this AI summer finally here to stay? Well, that's not just a philosophical question anymore. It's the multi-trillion-dollar question that everyone, from Silicon Valley to Washington, D.C., is trying to answer right now.